Hello everyone and welcome back to Navis Nobilite. I am Captain Zelnick and today we're going to be going over the special rules and fleet list for the Necrons. You're going to see a lot of references to some older rules and lore in this whole setup, mostly because these rules were made in the old style Necron lore that existed a significant amount of time ago. So if you see anything that's confusing, just bear that in mind. So let's talk about the wacky, ridiculous rules of the Necrons and how they function. First things first is the go-to upgrade that everyone should get if they take a Necron tomb ship, which is the Sepulcher. Most importantly of all, the Sepulcher gives you a leadership of 10. The Sepulcher can also be used as a weapon, can attack a single enemy ship within 20 centimeters. The ship attacked by the Sepulcher immediately takes a leadership check, not a command check, a leadership check. If they pass, the captain cracks some heads and restores order. If it has failed, the ship's leadership is permanently reduced by 1, and they may not go under any special orders until after the end of their next turn, including brace for impact, effectively making it a death sentence for a ship. If a ship can't brace and it's about to be shot by Necrons, it's over for that ship. Any ordnance within 20 centimeters of the Sepulcher are destroyed on a 4+. Now, this is to the individual ordnance marker, not to the wave. This basically is another layer of defenses against incoming enemy ordnance. So it makes bomber or assault boat runs on this particular vessel very difficult, which is a good thing for the Necron player because keeping the Cairn tomb ship alive is really important. A Necron ship may only unleash the Sepulcher when the ship is not on any special orders or crippled. Lightning arcs are weapons batteries, but they always count as closing and they ignore the effects of hollow fields or shadow fields, basically giving a giant middle finger to the Eldar of all stripes. They can also divide up between their arcs, very similar to how lances can divide up on targets. If you want more details of how it works, here we go. So the tomb ship, for a tomb ship with its strength 20 lightning arc, it can fire a 5 firepower to the front, 12 to the left, and 3 to the right. Basically, so long as it all adds up to 20. Normally, though, you tend to just shoot out the 20 and erase anything you're shooting at. The Star Pulse Generator is another pseudo special order. It creates a area effect of 20 centimeters around it, which does not affect other Necron ships. Each pulse generates one roll to hit against each ship or piece of ordnance in range. Against ships, it rolls 1d6 to hit the nearest facing armor value. So effectively, it's like a battery shot, just a 1 dice battery shot. Against the enemy's armor. Against ordnance, it is a 4-up to destroy the individual ordnance markers, not the whole wave. And it ignores hollow fields. See a theme here? You cannot generate a star pulse when the vessel is on any special order or crippled, and this also applies to lock-on. Gauss particle whips. Gauss particle whips are lances, but on a 6 they ignore shields, hollow fields, or any other mechanism that performs a similar function. If you hit a vessel and you roll a 6 and they have shields that are still up, no blast marker is generated or hollow field blast markers are generated simply because there was no save. You didn't hit the shields. Portals. This is a little complicated. Portals are effectively additional rolls for teleport attack. By the amount of the portal weapon, you basically can run more hit and run attacks. Now, the only rule that it ignores is it can be made regardless of the number of hull points the target ship has. If it has more than you, you can still teleport attack it, whether or not the enemy player likes it. The Necron Jackal also has a portal, but it cannot teleport attack anything with more than 6 hull points. They can be used at pretty much any time. They are not restricted by a ship being on any special orders, including brace for impact, except that their strength are still cut in half round down. If a ship is crippled or braced, they can still do it. If it is both crippled and braced, it may not make portal attacks at all. The Necron critical hits table is unique to the Necrons. I'm going to leave this up a little bit so you can get a good read out of it. Pause the video, read this. You will learn a lot about how to really ruin the day of a Necron player with this. Remember, typically you do between 2 through 6 or 2 through 7 with your hit and run attacks and teleport attacks. And that's usually enough to really ruin a Necron player's day. Now, in regards to the reactive hulls. First things first, all Necron ships with reactive hull, which is all of them, are immune to damage leadership, and movement modifiers from solar flares, radiation, gas clouds, and blast markers. All Necron ships are Armor 6, representing the difficulty in targeting, and in addition, receive a special save against each hit to represent the hull's adaptive qualities. They call them raiders, harvesters, and tomb ships. It's escorts, cruisers, and battleships. 6 up for escorts, 5 up for cruisers, 4 up for battleships. This save replaces the brace for impact save for all intents and purposes, and is treated in the same manner as a brace save, meaning it is used anytime a ship faces taking damage, but does not protect against critical damage caused by hits that were not saved. So if I fail my save and I take crit, I take the crit. And it does not save against damage caused by a boarding action, including critical damage of that boarding action. The 2 exceptions apply. It does not save against hit and run attacks unless the ship is actually braced. Warp cannons ignore reactive hull saves unless the Necron ship is braced. Warp cannons are unique to the Blackstone Fortress, specifically the activated Blackstone Fortress. If the Necron vessel uses brace for impact, then the save is modified to 2+, but its stealth properties are compromised and the armor is reduced to 4 up. Basically, this is what the Eldar wish they had with holofields. And finally, Necron critical repairs are made on a 4 or more as the sentient metal attempts to self-repair. Now, also, inertialess drive. Necron vessels are capable of interstellar travel, which means they can also just turn it on in the middle of the battle. Instead of normal all-ahead full orders, they roll d6 times 10 centimeters additional movement and can make a turn for every 20 centimeters it travels. That is ridiculous. You can have battleships flying across the board and just landing in the middle of an enemy formation. All other rules concerning all ahead full still apply, and weapon strengths are still halved. Now, disengaging and victory points. This is one of the most brutal elements of playing Necrons because this is how the Necrons lose. At the end of the game, including the normal victory points, count up the losses in the following way. Any capital ships that disengages with no damage, it counts as 10% destroyed. Any capital ship that disengages with any damage at all, or any raider that disengages, counts as 25%. Any capital ship that is crippled, 50%. Here we go. Any capital ship that is destroyed but not left as a drifting hulk is 200% destroyed. That means that a scythe harvester is worth 550 points. It's worth basically the same amount as a tomb ship with a sepulcher if it is destroyed and exploded. Any capital ship that is destroyed and left as a drifting hulk counts as 300%, which means a Cairn-class tomb ship base is worth 1,500 points if you hulk the vessel. Now, to prevent truly getting overwhelmed, Necron vessels may ignore the rule preventing them from firing on or boarding friendly drifting or blazing hulks. They will do this in an attempt to deny victory points to the enemy or introduce catastrophic damage to prevent the technology from falling into the hands of the other races. Now, moving on to the actual fleet list. Now, Necrons don't work exactly the same because when this was made, there were no hero Necrons. They were just all different varying forms of a Satan slave. So, Necrons is determined normally for the Necron fleets. Every ship rolls a leadership, just like everyone else. There's no modifier. But a ship carrying a sepulcher automatically gains LD10, which is really important for this fleet because you really need that LD10 on a really good ship. You may purchase fleet-wide rerolls, but there is no fleet commander, so they can't kill the commander and lose the rerolls. 1 extra reroll is 25 points, 2 extra rerolls is 75. For actual ships. For tomb ships, aka battleships, your fleet may include up to 1 tomb ship for every scythe harvest ship it contains, which is not that much of a restriction. You can take a lot of scythes, and you can therefore take a lot of tomb ships. You're only restricted by the points, which is quite expensive. A single tomb ship may be upgraded to carry a sepulcher, which you should take. Leadership 10 and all of the other crazy rules that it gets. Cruisers. Your fleet may include up to 6 Scythe-class harvest ships and up to 3 Shrouds. The Shrouds really are support vessels. You're not really meant to base your fleet around them. The bread and butter is the Scythe, and for obvious reasons, it's a much tougher and much more heavily armed vessel. Escorts. You may include up to 12 Jackal class raiders and up to 12 Dirge class raiders in squadrons of 2 to 6. Here are your expendable ships. These vessels can be lost at effectively no severe cost beyond their own victory points. You're going to find that the Dirge is going to be far more useful than the Jackal because the portal is very situational, though it does have a better weapons battery. Ultimately, though, it's up to you on which ones you're going to want because you will want escorts to support your other capital ships. You need things to distract the enemy from firing upon your cruisers. The life of your cruiser and your battleship is depended. Literally, your victory is dependent on them. If you lose a cruiser, you are making up a lot of lost points in order to eke out a victory. So get your escorts, use them to disrupt the enemy lines, make the enemy waste firepower on them, not on your bigger ships. All right, everybody, that is the Necron special rules and the fleet list. It's kind of unfortunate that we never saw anything more out of the Necrons, though. There's a lot of fan effort to bring in some of the newer stuff that emerged out of the video game into this game, including, much to my chagrin, a carrier. But if you like Necrons, you're set for this game. You're going to have a relatively small fleet, but you're going to have a very powerful one. All right, thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all again in the next video.